4 days, an uneasy silence has surrounded the Springboks camp. The kind of silence that doesn't calm nerves. It sharpens them. Fans sensed it. Analysts talked around it. Former players hinted at it without saying too much. Something was building, something unspoken, and at the center of it all stood Eben Etzebeth. Eben Etzebeth is not just another Springbok. He is the enforcer, the emotional heartbeat of the pack, a player whose presence alone shifts the physical balance of a match. When someone like Etzebeth goes quiet during a period of uncertainty, people notice. And when that silence stretches on, it creates tension, not only outside the squad, but within it. The Springboks are at a delicate moment. Expectations remain sky-high after recent successes, yet the pressure to evolve, adapt, and stay ahead of rivals like Ireland, France, and New Zealand has never been greater. Selection debates are intensifying. Tactical questions are growing louder. And through all of this, Etzebeth had remained firmly out of the spotlight. No bold statements, no emotional reactions, no reassurance to the public. Until now. When Etzebeth finally spoke, it wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it was powerful. His words landed with weight, because they were unexpected, not just in timing, but in tone. Calm, measured, and unmistakably honest, Etzebeth addressed responsibility, standards, and what it truly means to wear the green and gold in this phase of the Springboks' journey. And in doing so, he sent shockwaves through South African rugby. What made this moment so striking was that Etzebeth didn't speak as a victim of circumstance or as someone defending his position. Instead, he spoke like a man fully aware that no jersey is guaranteed, no reputation is enough, and no past achievement can carry you forward forever. For a player of his stature to openly acknowledge that the team must evolve, and that everyone must be prepared to be challenged, immediately changed the narrative. Within hours, his words were being replayed, dissected, and debated. Fans asked the same question again and again. Why now? Why speak at this precise moment, when pressure is mounting and scrutiny is at its peak? The answer isn't simple, and that's what makes this moment so explosive. Because when Etzebeth speaks this way, it's never just about him. It's about the standard. It's about the internal culture of the Springboks. And perhaps most importantly, it's about a message that extends beyond the dressing room. A message to teammates, coaches, and even rivals watching closely from the outside. Some interpreted his words as a warning. Others saw them as reassurance. A few sensed something deeper, a sign that major decisions may already be in motion behind closed doors. Etzebeth didn't deny the pressure. He didn't soften the reality. Instead, he leaned into it, making it clear that discomfort is part of staying at the top. And that is why this moment matters so much. This isn't just another interview quote. This is a shift in tone from one of the most influential figures in the squad. It suggests that the Springboks are entering a phase where honesty replaces comfort, where leadership means accountability, and where even the biggest names are expected to adapt or risk being left behind. Before we go any further, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel, because what Etzebeth just said sets the stage for something much bigger. In the next part, we'll break down what his words really mean, how they're being interpreted inside the camp, and why this statement could be the spark that changes everything for the Springboks. What Eben Etzebeth said may have sounded simple on the surface, but inside the Springbok setup, those words landed very differently. This wasn't just leadership talk. This was positioning. And everyone, players, coaches, and analysts, understood that immediately. Within the squad, Etzebeth's statement created a ripple effect. Senior players recognized it as a signal that standards are being reset. Younger players heard it as both an opportunity and a warning. When someone with Etzebeth's experience openly accepts pressure and uncertainty, it removes any illusion of safety for the rest of the group. Suddenly, no one is untouchable. The immediate impact was felt during training sessions. Intensity reportedly rose. Communication became sharper. There was less room for comfort, more emphasis on execution. Etzebeth's words didn't divide the group. They focused it. And that's what made them so powerful. Instead of creating fear, they created clarity. From the outside, the rugby media quickly picked up on the shift. Analysts began asking whether this was Etzebeth preparing the ground for a new phase of the Springboks pack. Some suggested that his comments hinted at tactical evolution, a more mobile forward unit, greater emphasis on adaptability rather than pure physical dominance. Others believed it was a response to internal competition, with emerging players pushing hard for starting roles. Fans, meanwhile, were split. A large portion praised Etzebeth for his honesty, calling it the kind of leadership South African rugby needs in moments of transition. Others questioned whether this was the right time to speak so openly, worrying that such statements could expose cracks rivals might exploit. And yet, that debate itself highlighted how significant his words really were. What made this moment even more intriguing was what Etzebeth didn't say. He didn't name names. He didn't criticize coaching decisions. He didn't refer to selection battles directly. But the subtext was clear. The Springboks are changing, and the old certainties no longer apply. In elite rugby, silence often hides the truth, but in this case, carefully chosen words revealed it. Inside the camp, Etzebeth's stance was seen as alignment rather than resistance. Coaches reportedly viewed it as confirmation that senior leaders understand the direction the team is heading. That matters. When leadership on the field mirrors leadership off it, transitions become smoother, even when they are uncomfortable. There's also a psychological layer here that can't be ignored. By speaking now, Etzebeth removed pressure from others who might have felt unable to express similar thoughts. He normalized the idea that evolution is not betrayal of tradition, but its survival. That message resonates deeply in a team that has built its identity on physical dominance but now faces opponents who have studied, adapted, and learned how to counter it. Internationally, rival camps took notice. Comments from a player like Etzebeth don't go unnoticed by teams preparing to face the Springboks. Some will interpret this as vulnerability. Others will see it as danger, the sign of a team self-aware enough to reinvent itself before being forced to. And this is where the tension truly grows. Because Etzebeth's words don't exist in isolation. They sit within a broader context of selection experimentation, tactical refinement, and long-term planning. Whether fans like it or not, this is not just about one player speaking out. It's about a squad preparing itself for a future that demands more than brute force and reputation. So the real question now isn't whether Etzebeth was right to speak. The question is how far this shift will go, and who will thrive under these rising expectations, and who might struggle. What makes Eben Etzebeth's words even more significant is the timing. This was not a random moment of honesty. This was carefully placed, and everyone close to the Springbok setup knows that nothing of this magnitude happens without alignment at the very top. Behind the scenes, the connection between Etzebeth and Rassie Erasmus is deeper than most fans realize. Their relationship has always been built on trust, brutal honesty, and shared responsibility. When Etzebeth speaks publicly in this way, it almost never contradicts the broader vision. In fact, it often reinforces it. Sources close to the camp suggest that Rassie has been deliberately allowing senior players more space to communicate difficult truths. Not because he has lost control, but because he understands that messages land differently when they come from within the group rather than from the coach's office. Etzebeth's statement fits perfectly into that strategy. Rassie's real message here isn't loud. It's subtle. And that's what makes it dangerous for opponents. By letting Etzebeth speak now, Erasmus signals three things at once. First, the leadership group is united. Second, accountability is no longer negotiable. And third, the Springboks are not protecting reputations, they are protecting standards. This approach mirrors some of Rassie's boldest moves in the past. He has never been afraid to shock the system if he believes it leads to growth. Dropping big names, rotating captains, changing combinations when the public least expects it. Time and again, those decisions were questioned, until they delivered results. What's happening now feels very similar. International rugby is entering a phase where predictability equals vulnerability. Teams like Ireland, France, and the All Blacks are no longer reacting to South Africa. They are planning specifically for them. Rassie knows this. And the message coming through Etzebeth is clear. Adaptation is no longer optional. There is also a psychological chess game at play. By allowing this conversation into the public space, the Springboks create uncertainty, not inside their own camp, but outside it. Rivals don't know whether to interpret this as instability or evolution. And that ambiguity is powerful. Some analysts believe Rassi intentionally chose this moment, ahead of key selections and upcoming clashes, to force intensity early. Instead of waiting for pressure to arrive from the outside, he brings it forward. He accelerates discomfort. Teams that survive this phase emerge sharper, more resilient, and more honest. Inside the squad, this has already sparked difficult conversations. Players are reportedly being challenged not only on performance, but on adaptability, mindset, and long-term contribution. The message is simple but brutal. Past achievements by respect, not security. And here's where it gets really interesting. Rassi's silence since Etzebeth spoke is not absence. It's confirmation. He hasn't rushed to clarify. He hasn't softened the message. That tells you everything. In high-performance environments, silence often speaks louder than press conferences. This moment reveals a Springboks team preparing for something bigger than the next match. It suggests long-term restructuring, deeper competition for places, and possibly even a shift in how leadership itself is expressed on the field. Now, let me ask you directly, and this is important. Do you think this kind of ruthless honesty makes teams stronger? Or does it risk breaking the balance inside the squad? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I really want to hear what you think. What happens next could define the Springboks' direction for years, not just months. Eben Etzebeth's words were not an ending. They were a trigger. Inside the Springboks environment, moments like this tend to separate careers. Some players rise. Others fade. When standards are publicly reinforced by one of the most respected figures in the squad, the ripple effects are unavoidable. Training intensity changes. Selection pressure increases. Complacency disappears. In the short term, this creates tension. And tension is uncomfortable. But in elite rugby, discomfort is often the birthplace of dominance. Players who were once considered safe suddenly feel heat from behind. Younger forwards see opportunity where there was none. Veterans are forced to prove, again, that they still belong at the very top. No one is protected. No one is untouchable. That is dangerous for rivals. Because when the Springboks operate in this mode, they stop being predictable. The pack becomes more aggressive. The collisions get harder. The mindset shifts from control to confrontation. This is the version of South Africa that has broken teams before, not with flair, but with relentless intent. But there is also risk. If handled poorly, moments like this can fracture trust. Ego can creep in. Media pressure can distort the message. That's why leadership is everything. And that's why the Etzebeth-Erasmus axis matters so much. This isn't chaos, it's calculated pressure. In the medium term, selection calls will tell the real story. Who keeps their place? Who quietly disappears? Who steps up when the spotlight burns hottest? Those answers will reveal whether this was just noise, or the start of something much bigger. And here's the part most fans aren't ready for. This could signal a transition phase. Not a rebuild, but an evolution. A Springbok side that keeps its physical DNA, but sharpens its edge mentally. Less sentiment, more ruthlessness, more hunger. If it works, South Africa doesn't just stay competitive, they become terrifying again. If it fails, the backlash will be brutal. And that's exactly why this moment matters. Because teams that aim for greatness don't avoid risk. They manage it. They embrace it. And right now, the Springboks look like a team willing to walk that fine line. So the real question isn't what Etzebeth said. The real question is what comes next. If you want to stay ahead of every major Springbok story, real or explosive, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because things are moving fast, and this is only the beginning.